especially now you go to, well, you can't even go to Disneyland anymore. Have you ever been to that Snow White ride at Disneyland?
I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and it is I have to pretend like, oh, God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
Wait, how often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
I'm a narcissist.
Disney wagered almost $300 million on a sparkling live-action Snow White, and then handed the glass slipper to its 22-year-old star. Within weeks, Rachel Zegler was pitching page one rewrites. No, someday my prince will come, fewer dwarfs, a heroine who rescues herself. Studio brass, anxious to look progressive, said yes, and the moment they bent the script, the mirror cracked. Fan forums howled over leaked pages. Budget lines ballooned with each new draft, and Zegler's offhand, "It's not 1937" quote became a lightning rod. By the time trailers dropped, audiences weren't asking if the movie would flop, but whether Disney's gamble on a princess-turned-co-writer had doomed the magic before the first frame rolled. Stick around. You'll see how one creative detour, blessed at the very top, sparked the costliest crisis in Disney history, and why the fallout still haunts every remake on the studio's slate. Walt Disney's first feature premiered in 1937, rescuing the studio from bankruptcy and crowning Snow White, the film that built Burbank. 80 years later, nostalgia was cashing checks again. So in 2016, the company greenlit a live-action remake. At first, the math looked easy. Familiar title plus Broadway-caliber tunes plus next-gen visuals equals money on opening night. But budgets ballooned even before cameras rolled. Costly LED stages, a custom motion capture forest, and a rewrite that added fresh songs by Pasek and Paul. Insiders whispered that the tab had already kissed $200 million when director Mark Webb officially signed in 2019. Still, executives shrugged. Beauty and the Beast had crossed the billion-dollar mark. So why worry? Then came casting. Disney shocked purists by choosing 20-year-old Latina newcomer Rachel Zegler, fresh off West Side Story. Social media applause collided with the hashtag storm. Some fans cheered. Others claimed the studio had played identity roulette with a princess carved in stained glass since the Depression. Disney's response? Our audiences embrace modern stories. The dice were rolling, and nobody noticed the table tilting just yet. But money and casting were only the opening gambit. The real gamble was still hiding in the script. Rachel Zegler's first press junket should have been routine. Instead, cell phone footage captured her quipping, "It's not 1937 anymore," while praising a plot overhaul that erased the prince's kiss. The clip rocketed across TikTok in 4 hours. Comment threads split faster than an apple. Half applauded a feminist refresh. Half swore Disney had forgotten its own roots. Complicating matters, Zegler's older tweets on world politics resurfaced, provoking an entirely different firestorm. Executives booked emergency Zooms. Focus group dial tests tanked whenever Zegler spoke, yet soared when Gal Gadot appeared as the evil queen. Meanwhile, right-wing pundits dubbed Rachel Snow woke. Progressive bloggers insisted backlash showed why the update was necessary. The actress herself doubled down, telling one interviewer the remake would teach young viewers to lead without waiting for rescue. But the most volatile spark was still invisible. During script rehearsals, Zegler began lobbying for major narrative shifts. No 7 minors, no traditional happily ever after, and only the barest trace of romance. Producing partners nodded politely, assuming the studio would overrule her. They didn't, and every time the script bent, the budget bent with it. Production moved to Pinewood Studios, where elaborate cottage interiors stood beside football field-sized LED walls. On day one, Peter Dinklage blasted the dwarf concept on a podcast, calling it backward. Within 48 hours, Disney replaced the miners with CGI magical creatures. That single swap triggered fresh concept art, digital doubles casting, and a complete redo of the merchandising plan. Price tag: about $28 million. Meanwhile, Zegler's notes kept arriving. She wanted a self-rescuing heroine arc, lyrical nods to suffrage history, even a scene where Snow chooses leadership over matrimony. Some notes stuck, some died, but each proposal meant storyboards tossed and sets redressed. Crew members began jokingly calling the film Rewrite White. Then a paparazzi long lens snagged the new creature stand-ins walking a Surrey hillside. The photo hit X, formerly Twitter, like a thunderbolt. Comments ranged from budget cosplay to Disney roasts its own legacy. Hashtags trended for 48 straight hours. Test screening audiences now arrived primed for trouble, scanning each scene for corporate virtue signaling. Disney might still have stemmed the bleed. until the clock itself turned enemy. Summer 2023 should have been edit season. Instead, the SAG-AFTRA strike froze every union set in Hollywood. Snow White was 65 shots short of a rough cut, and all of them involved its lead. With cameras dark, the studio faced a choice: hold the March 2024 slot and pray, or punt by a year. They punted. The new date, March 21st, 2025, bought time but carried its own poison. Delay headlines reinforced whispers of a cursed production. When pickets finally cleared, Disney ordered reshoots to embrace new creative opportunities. Translation: refilm crucial sequences to soften edges, lighten tone, and add a brief meet-cute that might charm romance fans. Another $30 million vanished. Insiders now pegged the cost between $240 and $270 million, surpassing Pirates 5. Yet the most telling sign of panic lay in Bob Iger's quarterly call. Historically, the CEO spotlighted upcoming tentpoles, but this time he skipped Snow White entirely, fielding analyst questions with corporate platitudes. In Burbank hallways, staff joked that the kingdom's glass coffin was already being built. The big night would confirm their fears, and then some. The European gala in Segovia dazzled: red velvet carpet, costumed flamenco troupe, fireworks over an ancient castle. Early tweets praised Godot's delicious villainy, and Zegler's vocals earned grudging respect. But critics walked out puzzled. The story swung between whimsical musical set pieces and intense monologues on self-actualization. Reviews landed at dawn: sumptuous but schizoid, princess empowerment by committee, brave yet bewildering. The Rotten Tomatoes meter stalled in the mid-40s by Friday. Box office whisper numbers had predicted an $80 million US start. Actuals printed at $43 million, barely half of Maleficent's debut. International sales fared no better. Hollywood handicappers began openly talking right down. Instead of winning back doubters, premiere weekend inflamed them. YouTubers posted side-by-side edits of 1937 versus 2025 scenes, dunking on wooden CGI critters and a conspicuously absent prince. TikTok soundtrack Zegler's Not 1937 quip with the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme. Still, the loudest fireworks were lit behind studio gates, where blame ignited like magnesium. Monday morning, legal teams reviewed Zegler's contract for potential breaches of the studio's derogatory statements clause. PR strategists floated a redemption apology tour. Marketing leads begged for more Godot, less Zegler. Meanwhile, consumer products executives fumed because the magical creature's plush line was floundering. Retailers wanted Dopey and Doc, not Mossbeard and Fern. During crisis, calls a schism opened. One camp claimed Disney had caved to Twitter and lost families. Another argued that half measures please no one. If you modernize, go all in. According to hallway gossip, Zegler's proposal to remove "Someday My Prince Will Come" had been the final straw for Bob Iger, yet he'd greenlit it anyway to avoid bad optics. Now shareholders were demanding numbers instead of narratives. The studio pushed Zegler onto The View for damage control. The segment imploded when she drifted into geopolitics, prompting a panic commercial break and instant trending hashtag. Overnight, entertainment blogs dubbed her box office poison, an echo of Katharine Hepburn's 1938 label, but without the benefit of golden age glamour. Disney still had one card left: run or reload. Accelerating the streaming debut could salvage marketing pennies, but doing so within 3 weeks would scream surrender. Ultimately, the brass chose a 45-day window, shorter than usual, longer than disaster signals. The film limped toward a $365 million global cap, a figure that, after marketing, participations, and overhead, meant a real-world loss near $200 million. Inside Burbank, upcoming reimaginings of Tangled and Princess and the Frog were quietly paused. New guidelines circulated. Actor script notes welcome, but only through moderated story summits, never on set. A memo added bluntly: legacy IP must satisfy core fan nostalgia before exploratory themes. Translation: magic first, messages second. Zegler moved to an indie musical, vowing to sing louder than the noise. Gal Gadot booked a spy franchise. Bob Iger, beset by activist investors over ESPN spin-offs and park price hikes, announced his ersatz retirement to focus on philanthropy. Whether he jumped or was nudged, few doubted Snow White scorched his exit path. And so the mirror's cracks keep reflecting, long after the credits rolled. At its core, the meltdown wasn't about a Latina princess, an updated anthem. or even runaway computer-generated pixies. It was the collision of three unstoppable forces: fan nostalgia that brooks no rewrite, a corporation chasing relevance in a culture war crossfire, and a rising star unafraid to steer the ship while still learning the ropes. Disney bet that fresh social conscience plus marquee IP would equal universal applause. Instead, it discovered that storybook myths carry iron chains, break them carelessly, and they snap back hard. Now, every future remake will unfold under the shadow of this shattered mirror. So, where does the kingdom go from here? Smaller budgets? Ironclad creative rules? Or an even bolder push into modern retellings that risk everything for a shot at new magic? One thing's certain, audiences armed with instant outrage and limitless memes won't grant second chances. And that leads to the real question, one the mirror can't answer alone. When the next beloved tale reaches for reinvention, will Disney dare to wish upon that star? Or has the fairest lesson of all already been learned?